Hello and welcome to part 4 of how to play Warhammer 40k. Now this is more of an interlude before we get into the main bulk of the game. So what we're going to be looking at here are the statistics of models and things. Because each model has a set of statistics and we're going to go through those right now. So without further ado, let's have a look at the basic one as given as an example in the main rulebook. And here we are, the characteristic profile table, and what you'll see there is an example of a space marine, a typical space marine, and an orc boy. Now alongside each one there, it's got the basic stats that you have with most models. Okay, so starting from the left, it's got WS, which is weapon skill, and that defines the character's close combat skill, so like melee, that type of thing. Next is BS, which is ballistic skill, and this is the statistic you will need to start shooting. Okay, and we'll come on to all this later on in the other steps. Then you got S, which is strength, as to how physically tough or how physically strong your model is. Okay, and it gives you an example. A Tyrannid Carnifex has a strength 9 and humans have strength 3, so there's a bit of an example or comparison for you there. Next we have T, toughness, which is the model's ability to resist physical damage and pain. Then you got W, wounds. This is very important because this is kind of like, I don't know if you ever played D&D, that was kind of like hit points, so these are wounds. When these go down to 0, that model is dead, basically. Okay, so your average sort of troop infantry has 1. Most of them have 1. Then you've got I, initiative. Okay, that's the swiftness of the model's reactions. So you use that to determine who goes first and things like that in a combat. A is the attacks, number of attacks, number of times the model can attack during close combat. So yeah, then you've got LD, which is your leadership. That's kind of how courageous and determined the model or character is. Then you've got S3, your armor save. Now, this is what you use to avoid harm. Okay, so that's your basic statistics there. Now, vehicles have a slightly different one. Okay, so here we are with a typical common vehicle. This is a Lehman Russ tank. Just here, look, and you'll notice that the tanks have ballistic skill as well. Well, most vehicles have all this. This is like the basic stats for most vehicles. So they've got ballistic skill, just like other unit types. They've got armor, like F, S, and R. And this represents the front armor, the side armor, and the rear armor. This is what you need to get through in order to cause damage to the vehicle. And when that happens, you take the points off of the hull points, HP, at the end there. Every vehicle has a number of hull points. Now, different units have different things. Some vehicles or classifications of vehicle will have weapon skill as well. Things like walkers and things like that. But we'll come on to that later as and when. So for now, this is just the basics of these stats. Okay, so that's all we'll need before we get going into the movement phase. Hey guys, so that's the basics of the statistics that we'll need before we start doing things like movement and that. So just to recap, this is a couple of examples of typical units that you'll find. Actually, it's an assault marine here and a terminator here. Okay, they will have the basic statistic table. All right, the first one I showed you. And then a typical example of the other one will be like this Rhino tank here. Okay, so it's obvious, isn't it? Front armor, side armor refers to either side, and rear armor at the back. Not that you need to memorize all this at the moment, it's just that you need to know that each model on the table has statistics, even some types of terrain. So that's all you need for now. We'll crack on with the movement phase next. Thank you for watching.